morning to all of you. Thank you, Archbishop Thomas McMahon. Thank you, Archbishop Stanislas Fernandez. Thank you also for my friend Appadurai for the beautiful words of introduction. When people introduce us in such glowing terms, I always have a challenge to be better after such introductions. Okay, maybe this mic has some shrill voice. I'm humble in many things but proud of my voice. Okay, this is better. My dear fathers, first of all, I am very happy to be in the land of Gujarat for the first time. I never came to Gujarat, went to many other states, but then thanks to the invitation, I am sure you will not regret for coming here, spending time by the end of the day. One thing is coming together itself is a growth, fellowship. You meet so many of other places. Leaving aside what you learn. One of the basic things is we become really old only when we stop learning anything new. If you want to be charming, attractive, learn something new every day, do some good to some person, at least a word of encouragement. You will be really attractive, charming. These, according to me, are the secrets. I believe in it. Do some good to somebody every day. Learn something new every day. You will be young and attractive. I went to one of my parish priests who is younger to me. There was a beautiful computer at the entrance. I asked him, Father, you can send an email to me regarding this question, I will answer you. He said, I never touch the computer. I don't send emails and all. Then why such a beautiful computer? He told me only my assistant operates. Today literacy is known by knowing at least to send an email, Father, I told him. On the other hand, my own former Archbishop, Emeritus Archbishop Michael Augustine, even now he will be busy with his computer, sending mails, answering letters and so on. That's what I am saying. There is no time, for example, for not learning anything new. Not learning anything new. Learn something new every day. That is my appeal to you, and you also. I'm sure some of you, one or two of the young priests at least, are touched by my words and are learning something new, reading something sensible every day, half an hour, like that. Yesterday I was sharing with the bishop also the treasures of the fathers of the church. In our second reading, 365 days, and also 185 days, all the saints, the second reading of the office of reading, I have rendered in my voice. Anybody who wants it can copy from Appadurai, from Malay, and so on. That all may listen and listen again and increase in knowledge and virtue. That was my own feeling. The first thing. Canon 279 of the Code of Canon Law speaks about the obligation and right of all the clerics for continuing formation. I am a resource person for the MSMS fathers especially. Sometimes I am really touched by a senior priest like Father Anthony Mukandottam, late in the 80s, taking down notes. I used to think, what this old man at this age is writing notes when I am talking. I was humbled by that experience once. I am really fortunate and consider myself blessed to share the next room of the great scripture scholar Legrand, MEP. 91 years. Last November 10th, he completed 90 years. Even now he walks 4 kilometers per day every day. And then he is the first one to read the newspaper, reading, writing, contributing, participating in the community activities. Some of us think when we reach 45, 50, we are already old. Learn something new every day. He is such a great inspiration. Commenting on the burning bush, the great Cardinal Martini speaks of, At the age of 80, Moses encountered the Lord. He saw the burning bush. It is burning, but then it is not consumed. He did not lose the sense of wonder at the age of 80. Let us never lose the sense of wonder. I'm really thrilled to see the whole hall full, even though you have been given the option, most of you, to attend or not. That shows your interest. I really appreciate you. Never miss such courses of formation. After saying this, I want to go straight into this topic. First of all, you might have studied in Canon law, in seminary, then we have to get some marks, you have to go through that lesson and all. Some of them always say, I don't like Canon law only. The subject which I did not like also, Canon law only. Many people like sister-in-law more than they like Canon law. Father-in-law, mother-in-law, brother-in-law, sister-in-law. But Canon law means something is allergic. But in the Code of Canon Law book, I don't know how many of you paid attention to, especially the first part of promulgating the code, the Latin code, 1983 code. The Holy Father says very beautifully, there is no conflict between Scripture and Canon law. So if any of you have any mind that Canon law is bad, I always say, if there is a conflict between Canon law and the Bible, we have to follow the Bible, not Canon law. So the Holy Father says, the law of the church is born from the tradition and experience of the church. Everything, the first source is Bible only. If something in Canon law contradicts the Bible, Bible prevails, not Canon law prevails. Jesus said, I did not come to abolish the law but to fulfill it. Of course, when the Sabbath laws were misused to enslave people, Jesus was up in arms against them. He was not for it, but then he was a law-abiding citizen. Especially Luke chapter 2, they did everything according to the law. Give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. He wanted taxes to be paid to Caesar. So Jesus was law-abiding only. Fulfill the law. Jesus. Sometimes people quote Paul one-sidedly to say that Paul was against all kinds of law. No, Paul also wanted discipline in the church. There must be order. There must be always harmony between charism on the one hand and order in the church also, especially the later epistles we see. Paul is the author of the Pauline privilege. Paul was the author of first excommunication, let him be cut off. In order to protect the others, law regulates relationship. The code is born of the Bible and especially the pastoral teachings of Vatican II. We have an old Tamil song which says, all that I want to speak, you also should speak. So Vatican II tells the Code of Canon Law, all that I want to speak in the pastoral language, you speak in the juridical language. 50% of the Code of Canon Law, 1983, is repeating Vatican II only. So let us not think that law is against the Bible, not at all. The Holy Father, Saint John Paul II, made it clear in Sacre Disciplinal Ages that law is in line with the Bible. Coming to our specific topic, marriage. You all know what is required for a valid marriage. 3 things. First of all, what makes the marriage is consent. So this may be repetition, but without that we don't go enter into the topic. It is consent that makes the marriage. Even now, some of the non-Christians may have, I don't know what's the problem with this, my shrill voice, can it be adjusted? Because of that. Reduce maybe, reduce this volume of this. Okay, it is consent which makes the marriage. Consent which makes the marriage, you know, that is the more. Too much reduce, now practically, okay. Alright. You know the importance of consent in marriage. and sometimes consent is vitiated due to so many factors. These are given in Canon 1095 to 1104, all that vitiate the consent. The consent may become invalid because of so many factors. And many marriages are declared invalid because there was no proper consent in the marriage. Especially some time back in the United States of America, more than 80% of the marriages were declared invalid on the basis of 1095 paragraph 2. That is, a lack of due discretionary judgment to make a decision. So the canonists were so intelligent, okay, in this case, he did not have the due discretion at the time of giving the matrimonial consent. And then paragraph 3 also, quite a number of other cases. Due to psychological reasons, a person is unable to assume the obligations of marriage. He would have studied. So then again, a lack of knowledge, a lack of freedom, how freedom can be taken away by condition, by fear, by force, then also pretending to marry, simulation, error, deceit, all these invalidate the consent. The consent can be rendered invalid. Then, the marriage must be free from impediments, deriment impediments. Free from deriment impediments. These are given in the Code of Canon Law. You have studied from Canon 1083 to 1094. The 12 impediments in the Latin Church, the Oriental churches have 13, also spiritual relationship. Otherwise, 10 impediments. You would have studied also. Some impediments are of divine law, they cannot be dispensed. Other impediments are ecclesiastical law. So, divine law impediments, for example, impotency and prayer bond, and also consanguinity in the direct line and also in the second degree in the collateral line. Then these are all impediments of divine law. Some impediments can be dispensed by the local ordinary. And some impediments are reserved to the Holy See. Impediments that are reserved to the Holy See are sacred order, perpetual profession of chastity, perpetual vow of chastity in a religious institute of pontifical right, and also impediment of crime. These three are reserved to the Holy See. So a marriage will become invalid if there was an impediment of divine law, or if there was an impediment from which no dispensation was obtained. No dispensation was obtained. If it is dispensable impediment, dispensation is needed from the local ordinary. The law uses the word local ordinary. It will refer to diocesan bishop, vicar general, and episcopal vicar. These are the people who come under the title local ordinary. Sometimes people don't know local ordinary means they think only the bishop. Not only the bishop. The word diocesan bishop refers to the bishop. Local ordinary, according to Canon 134, refers even to the vicar general and the episcopal vicar. They can give the dispensation. And then the third thing that is needed for a valid marriage is, of course, the canonical form. The marriage must be celebrated in the canonical form, which is described in Canon 1108. What is canonical form? Two parties, two witnesses, and one official witness, according to the understanding of Latin Church, who is having the power or faculty to bless their marriage in the Latin Church. So recently, the Holy Father also has brought in the change in the Canon 1108, where one of the parties is Oriental, Syro-Malabar or Syro-Malankara in our situation. You cannot delegate it to the deacon to bless the marriage, because for the Orientals, the nuptial blessing, the sacred minister, intervention of the sacred minister is important. So, if you give delegation to the priest only, because there the understanding is priest is the minister. The Latin understanding, the spouses themselves are the ministers of the sacrament. So, I am only revising what you might have studied in your own. This 1108 is recently also changed to include in that case. Who can bless a marriage? You know it always that it is the local ordinary. The word local ordinary includes the bishop, but diocesan bishop doesn't include the vicar general. Local ordinary in the whole diocese and parish priest in each territory or anybody delegated by them. Then these two persons can delegate. I teach sometimes about for one marriage, there may be so many people who are competent for a marriage in the diocese. Diocesan bishop can bless, the VG can bless, episcopal vicar can bless, PP can bless, the assistant might have received the general delegation, he may bless, a visiting priest can also have. All of them have the faculty. Some have ordinary power. These three have, four have ordinary power. Others have delegated power. Whether you have ordinary power or delegated power, marriage is valid. Suppose bishop is going to bless the marriage. The visiting priest or the assistant priest, they bless the marriage first. Still the marriage is valid. Whether the power is delegated or sub-delegated or ordinary power. But the general principle we should always keep in mind, a lower authority should not unnecessarily meddle with cases that was already referred to the higher authority. That's all. Otherwise, if it goes ahead, it is valid only, no problem. This is what is needed with regard to the valid marriage. So the law of the church says, not only for validity, there may be so many other marriages which may be valid but unlawful. So many other marriages will be valid but unlawful. The marriage also should be lawful. For example, no proper preparation. Marriage is valid, but then it is unlawful. You don't teach them the rights and obligations of marriage and all. It is unlawful. And then, say for example, even marriage of mixed marriages. Marriage may be valid. It is not a diriment impediment. You only need permission, but it is unlawful. One is Catholic, other is non-Catholic. Without referring to the bishop, you bless the marriage. Marriage is valid as long as you are parish priest. But then it is unlawful. And there is a big list of things. Suppose marriage, the canon law says 1614 only. But of course, we have to follow the civil law. Bishop's Conference has told us also. So it must be 2118. Suppose you bless a marriage 1614. Canonically valid. Civilly invalid. But canonically unlawful because the canon law itself asks us to follow the civil law. So like that. So what do you have to ensure? As parish priests, as future pastors, are you blessing a valid marriage? First of all, these three. Is there any impediment? Are they giving true consent? Do I have the necessary faculty? Are there two witnesses? So, are you blessing a valid marriage? You have to ensure. Are you blessing a lawful marriage? Banns and all. We ask them the papers to send. Sometimes some people say, so you have not brought the papers, stop the marriage. Papers do not make the marriage valid or not. What makes the marriage valid is whether there is consent, whether there is no impediment, and whether it is celebrated in the canonical form. Papers do not make the marriage valid. It doesn't mean papers are not required, but papers give you the assurance that you are blessing a valid marriage. Papers give you the assurance that you are blessing a valid marriage. So we have to follow it. We have to ask for the paper. Whether the person is baptized, whether there is the required age, whether there is impediment, all right. But let us not think that papers make the marriage valid. Papers do not make the marriage necessarily valid. You bring all the papers, double copy, triple copy, but there is an impediment which both of you did not know, marriage is invalid only. Marriage is invalid only. So that is it. This one we have to do as pastors. That you are blessing valid marriage and lawful marriage. In this context only, the preparation also matters. So in brief, you might have studied so many things. Basically, what is required for a valid marriage? When you know it, then how your marriage is invalid? The same answer only. When any of these three things are found missing, then the marriage becomes invalid. That's how we quote the tribunal. In this context, I want to bring your attention once again to 1063, the different kinds of preparation. Why the judicial vicar, judges, bishop have so much of headache? Because parish priest did not do the work properly. Sometimes, in spite of the best of our efforts, then sometimes it happens that marriage is invalid. That doesn't matter. Preparation is very, very important. 7 years, 10 years, 13 years of preparation to be ordained a priest. But then this preparation, like fast food, you don't do anything at all. You say number of Catholics in my parish is 200, 300, 400. But when a marriage comes, how much time you take for them to prepare? I don't know about this state or how you are dealing with them, how much time the pastor spends the time with them. I remember recently, more than me, the couple were interested in a meaningful liturgical preparation alone. I said, one day, a young boy and girl came to St. Peter's Pontifical Seminary and then told me, Father, we want you only to bless the marriage. They were from Resurrection Church in Gandhinagar parish in Bangalore. Then I told them, I don't usually bless the marriage if I don't know the parties personally, or at least their parents very personally. I don't accept to bless any such marriage. No, Father, you don't know us, but we know you. You come to this church for English Mass, and we are always listening to your homily. Then they started quoting from my homilies during the year, what all I said and all. Then I was a little moved. Catholic priests are easy victims of flattery also. Then I was moved. Then I said, Father, if you say yes, we will bring both our parents. Then they brought the parents the next day. And then they said, they called the Vicar General, parish priest, but then they insisted that I must be the main celebrant, I must preach and bless. No, when you are calling Vicar General and Basilica parish priest and all these big people, they will think I am only trying to take up everything. You have to say, no, Father, we told them like that, on their condition only they are coming this. I felt embarrassed. And then they brought the liturgy. And then the liturgy also, as you know, different prayers for different masses are there. 3 or 4 alternatives are there, choices are there. And then they said, this is what we did, this was the reading. Everything was prepared. This is the interest of the lay people, I am telling. Suddenly the priest gives the paper, you read, there he is struggling on it. You never practiced him for it. You even don't know whether he can read or not. Father, I can read, my husband cannot read. You recite, then we will repeat. Father, one girl told me. This kind of sensitivity, individual attention, even though in the West, many are not practicing, for baptism. I remember when I was in Germany, 3 days before, we have to go to the house of the baby who is prepared for baptism. And then there is 1.5 hour session with the parents, godparents, their catechism. In the house, in the family itself, they will give time. Only then baptism will be followed. Sometimes some of us, we don't do our homework, and then the preparation, remote preparation right from childhood, and preparation for all the youth, and individual preparation, and making use of it. Even Amoris Laetitia speaks about it, making use of the family for the preparation, going through it. All these are important. I don't want to go into the details of it, and 63 speaks about it. So many documents of the church speak about it. Now, before I go to the next point, anything you want to ask me in what I said? One of the things I tell always my students is, you make me angry in the class by asking any type of questions, I will take you for dinner. Nobody has made me angry in the class, first thing. Yeah, second thing also, challenge them to defeat me in table tennis, I give them 10 rounds. Yes, father. Yes. Then what I said, yes. Very good.
Consent in marriage.
Yes.
Suppose a couple is married for 12 years and they already have 2 kids.
Yeah.
And then suddenly the wife comes and says that, I don't really want to get married to this person. So,
Yeah, that's true. So these things, 12 years they are living happily. 13th year she finds that
they're very rough marriage.
rough right from the beginning. Right from the beginning. So what are her compulsions to continue the relationship for 12 years? Now that she says that she didn't really want to get married. That's the question the person has to analyze. I give you another example. It may look funny, okay. I just say a woman came asking for annulment, and then the parish priest asked, how long are you separated from your husband? She was with 5 little children. One 8-year-old, another 6-year-old, and another all. The last one was in her lap also. How long are you separated from your husband? The judge, the judicial vicar asked these things. So she said, for the last 10 years. Last 10 years. So, last 10 years. How 5 little children? She said it seems, Father, but he used to come once in a way to ask pardon. He used to come once in a way to ask pardon. So some of these cases we can't take very seriously. So I'm going to the other extreme. But then there can be situations, okay, my father said he will die of heart attack. My mother said you should never come to our home again. So you have to see the real compulsions for continuing that relationship for 12 years. There will be cases where even after 12 years, 20 years of living together also, the marriage can be invalid. But you have to see whether at the moment of exchanging consent, the consent was invalid. Even 12 years, even after 20 years, a marriage can be declared invalid if it can be proved that the woman or the man was under threat or under some other consideration, they had to be artificially lived together. That's it.
So what is the outcome of an annulled marriage in such a case?
Yes, still they can apply. So it is for them to find the ground. Then they can still apply. Never. But we have to see the defender of the bond will raise other questions. Why it was a real marriage? One thing is a marriage being invalid right from the beginning. Another is because of human defects, afterwards other problems coming up. So we have to distinguish it. So in this context, okay, what is I want to go to the next point. Maybe afterwards, I welcome as many questions as possible. Feel free. Feel free. We speak of indissolubility of marriage as one of the properties of marriage. You have studied that. Even in that, there are grades of indissolubility. In principle, all marriages are indissoluble. All marriages are indissoluble. Even Hindu marriages, all marriages are indissoluble. The second grade of indissolubility comes sacramental marriages. Sacramental. What is a sacramental marriage? A valid marriage between two baptized persons. A valid marriage between baptized and baptized. Don't say Catholic, Catholic. A valid marriage between a baptized and another baptized person. There may be 2 Catholics, or one may be Catholic, one baptized non-Catholic, or 2 non-Catholics. 2 Protestants marry. It is a sacramental marriage in their church. It is a sacramental. Many priests have doubt about even this. 2 Protestants marry. Is it a sacramental marriage? Yes, it is a sacramental marriage. No doubt about it. 1 Catholic, 1 Protestant, sacramental marriage. But 2 Catholics go to the civil registrar and marry without following any canonical form. Then it is invalid because we apply those 3 principles: consent, impediment, and then canonical form. The third one is missing. So they are two Catholic, consent is there is no impediment, but then canonical form is not followed, it is not a sacrament. Suppose two Catholics married only in the civil law, never married in the Catholic Church, no problem, even by documentary process, simple process, you can declare the marriage invalid. You can declare the marriage invalid, even though it is two Catholics, the marriage is not valid. That's why I say a valid marriage only is a sacrament. Valid marriage is a sacrament. So, thirdly, sacramental and consummated marriages. Sacramental and consummated marriages. These are absolutely indissoluble. So, third grade, sacramental and consummated marriages. So, if a marriage has only natural bond, so here they can be dissolved. They can be dissolved. A valid marriage can be dissolved. Sacramental but non-consummated, it can be dissolved by the Holy Father. Non-consummated can be dissolved. Non-consummated. In the first case only come Pauline privilege and Petrine privilege, or favor of faith, Petrine privilege. So marriage can be dissolved. Pauline privilege and Petrine privilege. In this case, you can dissolve the marriages which are only having the natural bond, not sacramental bond. Secondly, sacramental bond but non-consummated, they can be dissolved. So here that is dissolution of marriage. This is sacramental and non-consummated marriages. Sacramental only when it is valid, and consummated marriages you can never dissolve. Sacramental and consummated marriages never dissolve. But one thing we can know, in most of the states in India, the civil law recognizes our marriage as valid. It does not recognize our annulment as valid. Or even if Pope gives the dissolution, civil law does not recognize it. It acknowledges our right to bless the marriage, but it does not acknowledge our right to break the marriage. That is why we say that all the parish priests must ensure, even though the person has got ecclesiastical annulment, the person must have obtained civil divorce. Civilly also they must be free. Only then, otherwise the government will say, you are a party to bigamy. Bigamy. Sometimes, that's what one famous case in Bangalore happened. He was going on writing to us, writing to Cardinal Austin, writing to our chairman, George Anthony Swami, why the church can come up and then defend the right of the church to annul the marriages and come. As of now, we have not asked for recognition or obtained recognition for our annulment. We cannot come to you. You are at fault. The parish priest who blessed the marriage before obtaining civil divorce is at fault. Action has to be initiated against him. We cannot do all that. So we have told in the seminary already, all the priests ensure that the person has got a civil leave. On the other hand, there was a parish priest, even in one of the dioceses, cathedral parish priest, who blessed the marriage with the civil divorce without waiting for ecclesiastical annulment. You can imagine, there can be some people who can act so unlawfully, arrogantly like that. So, without getting annulment, ecclesiastical annulment also, you should not bless the marriage. Without blessing this also, you should not bless the marriage. So, that is the thing with regard to the dissolution. Dissolution. Anything, fathers? Any other thing we got? Yes, Father. Father first. Next item.
For the recent judgment of the Supreme Court,
yes.
If Catholic Church annuls the marriage also, they have to get the civil judgment. They are not recognizing our question.
Yeah.
What are you saying about it?
Yeah, that's the practice now. That's what I am saying. So the judgment of it, there is lot of problems. I'm sure bishops know it. If we ask for recognition, there is a big problem because we follow a very good procedure. There are countries like Italy where they recognize it because of course that agreement like that. Now in the case of India, there are 100 people or 50 people, they say a church, for them, for the government, all are Christians only. How to distinguish? They will also follow like talak and then this 50, the pastor will say go away, and then how to recognize it. There is these kinds of problems are there. And once we accept it, there is also danger of their interpreting even canon law and giving their judgment on the basis of it. So that is why, as of now, our Bishops' Conference has not decided to ask for civil recognition for our annulment also. We are not fighting for it also. Yes, Bishop.
I think in this particular case, Cardinal already said that there are civil effects, like for instance, inheritance, property and all that. The church cannot go into all those details, so it is better to keep it aside.
Yeah, not only that, even in Italy, in your days, civil effects we don't bother, at least for marriage matters. Marriage matters also, that recognition is not there with regard to the bond. When we give the judgment, merely civil effects of marriage, canon law also says that merely civil effects of marriage must be judged civilly only. We do not have the police force to give, to decide how much alimony has to be given, who has to take care of the child, all that we do not have competence. So, not only for that, in countries where there is recognition, they don't deal with civil matters also. They don't deal with civil matters also. Where in countries where say where annulment is recognized also, merely civil matters are left to the civil court. Yes, Pastor. Yes.
So the first regarding the tribunal annulment, they are all clear.
Yes.
In Gujarat, so far the practical way, the civil divorce is taken different ways. One is called Samajik, what do you mean by societal divorce, which is the 5-6 fellows sit and they write and give a divorce one. Second one is the only notary signs and gives, if the both the parties sits with the witness in the notary writes and gives, that itself they consider as a divorce. Now, according to the tribunal or the canonist,
does the government recognize both of them?
Nobody recognizes, but so far it has been practiced.
No, it is practiced, but the government doesn't recognize.
No.
Government doesn't recognize that.
So Allah saying no, but what happens is, what is so far happening here in the diocese? That you talk. Don't talk, means we have been blessing. What to do? That means I am a culprit or I am a criminal to do that.
Yeah, Father, you have to arrive at a policy in the diocese, that is different matter. Okay. Arrive. See, Father is speaking
Father,
about.
I am telling to the party, you have to get the court a divorce. I don't think till this 18 year priesthood anybody has gone to the court to get the divorce. And I also fill the form and send other priests also blessed. So that means there is no civil divorce of, as per the canonist says that it has to be taken from the court, from the judge. That judgment paper no party has brought. It is only
the thing is, as long as, see, the
brought.
problem is, okay, I understand your point, Father, fully. As long as people do not take you to the court, one of those parties, you are safe. Once you are taken to the court, only the problem will come and you have to follow some policy, consistent policy. I always say, divine law doesn't have any exception, human law has exception. They should not have any problem. So now, if you bless the marriage, it is valid. But only that, in order to protect yourself civilly, you have to do the necessary compromise. So that is the thing. That is the thing. As I said, what makes the marriage here? No bond. So now okay, no impediment because the spouse first marriage is valid or died, and then there is consent. It is celebrated in the canonical form. That is valid. If without annulment, if you bless it, will be invalid. If when you go against the civil law, marriage is not invalid, but you are liable to consequences where you are born. But how you have to protect yourself, how the diocese has to have some consistent policy regarding that, that I don't want to enter into the controversy as of now. Your point is taken note of, but you have to abide by the instruction of the bishop, whatever it may be. Okay. Yes, Father.
That second case
is
sacramental but not
non-consummated, yes.
Can be dissolved.
Dissolved by the Holy Father, yes.
This Holy See?
Yes, only Holy See. Not local level. So there were attempts to ask it for it earlier, but then it's only the Holy See.
Which canon says that for the reference?
1141. Just read somebody, one more mic is there, somewhere there.
A marriage which is ratified and consummated cannot be dissolved by any human power or by any cause other than death.
Yes, then
1141.
Then.
1142. A non-consummated marriage between baptized person or between a baptized party and an unbaptized party can be dissolved by the Roman Pontiff for a just reason, at the request of both parties or of either party, even if the other is unwilling.
yes,
So it has to go to Rome.
yes, it has to go to Rome.
And is it an application made to the Rotary, Roman Rotary, or to the local tribunal and they send it?
Yeah, you can send to the bishop and then it will be sent. Yeah.
At the level of the bishop, you cannot.
No, as of now, no. There has been attempts to get it for all the bishops. As of now, no. Okay. That is fast. Actually, even in the new norms, even as the word earlier, it is very clearly said during the course of the process, you find out that the marriage is not consummated. You can suspend the case and then forward the documents after instructing to the Holy See for the dispensation. Yes, Father.
So when the civil court grants divorce,
Yeah.
are we also forced to accept divorce?
That is another, see, these are the things really concrete. The civil law gives even by mutual consent. Mutual consent. You have your man, I have my woman. So mutual consent. Mutual consent is not a ground in canon law. Mutual consent is not a ground in canon law. But then, according to the new norms, speedier process or fast process, for giving a petition, both parties must agree that it is invalid. That is different matter. Not because they want to declare a valid marriage invalid, but because in fact both of them find that there was no consent in the beginning, or one of them finds in the beginning, the other party doesn't want to oppose. That is different matter. So civil, you can give also money, some 10 lakhs, and then you get the divorce while the civil law and all. So it is not necessary, but then there can be also a marriage which is also civilly valid, can be invalid. A marriage which is civilly invalid can be valid in canon law, and what is invalid in canon law can be civilly valid. There are so many things, convergences and conflicts.
So there is a conflict there.
Not all the time. There can be conflict.
Suppose a person, a Catholic baptized person,
Yeah.
gets divorce in the civil court,
Civil.
wants to remarry
Remarry.
the church.
So
Then
you
there
have
are-
to find if there is any ground.
Another it first.
On the basis of, that's why those three things I said. The consent is, most of the time it's only question of consent. So you have to find out whether there was a real consent. So you can declare a marriage, even with the new document, the teaching of the church regarding what makes the marriage valid has not changed. Has not changed. Indissolubility teaching has not changed. Only that it wants to find out whether there is any ground. Most of the time, some of the judicial vicars may not find any ground, while there can be ground. Canonical form is very clear. Impediment is very clear. Most of the time it will be in the question of consent. Whether you can apply intelligently and find out whether there is any ground, that is the matter. So now the Holy Father doesn't say simply grant annulment for anything and everything. Fine. Holy Father also cannot go against these three basic principles with regard to the validity or invalidity. So because a person has got civil divorce, what we want is, why we ask for civil divorce, not for authenticate what the church has declared invalid. We want it to be free from the civil problems. That is why we want civil law. We don't address anything to the civil law. Secondly, as Archbishop said, because we cannot dictate matters on other areas of property, alimony and things like that become. That's why to be certain only we want it. Another thing is civil law doesn't recognize our annulment. That's why we want civil. What is the purpose of our asking civil law to go to the civil law? This is the purpose. Not that they authenticate our annulment or it is a precondition or something like that. So far, new marriage is surely a precondition.
When we don't authenticate their judgment,
Yeah.
civil judgment,
Yeah.
can it not be called contempt of court?
No, they will not ask us. So far, they did not force us to marry anybody because they have given civil law. So far, they have not forced. In future, if they force that, you have to defend yourself. No priest is forced, you have to bless the marriage because we have given civil divorce. Okay. Any other, some fathers from behind, somebody wanted to ask something?
But in this case,
Yes.
if they've got a civil divorce,
Yeah.
we cannot get them remarried until we get an annulment in the court.
Yes, that's what it is. That's what it is. Sure. Yeah, I said you need both. Yes. If you don't get annulment, you marry, marriage becomes invalid. If you don't get civil divorce and marry, marriage may be valid, but unlawful according to our law, but for civilly our marriage also will be invalid. Invalid. Okay. Then, any other clarification on some other parts? Shall we go to the yes, Father?
Some of the dioceses, they request for the civil registration first.
Yeah.
Not in Baroda, I think Ahmedabad, I don't know, it is done afterwards.
Yeah.
After church.
So you follow the civil law as it is required. Some of them have to send the entry to them periodically, or some every month each state, and you have to follow regarding that.
He's asking something else.
Huh?
He's asking something else.
Yeah.
For example, rights of Goa, and you have to first get your marriage civil register.
Yeah, correct. Even in those who have French citizenship and all, first you have to marry
Yes,
the
if Gujarat
civilly.
is not so, you can do either or. That is what he's asking.
That each diocese, you have to follow the government policy as it is given to you. But then, our marriage is only sacrament.
Mother,
Yeah.
this is something technical question is, the Pondicherry we have that, you first marry the court and bring the, this one.
No, Pondicherry first means those who are French citizens.
Citizens,
no?
okay.
Okay.
Same thing in Goa.
Yeah,
Here
same
what
thing in
happens
Goa.
is, here what happens is,
Uh.
that there is a court marriage, the very fact you go, you are punished. You can't go for a court marriage. You have to do the church marriage.
Ah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So now
okay.
what happens is, there are cases, for certain reason they have to go for a court marriage before that. Good Catholics and.
Yeah, with the new permission they can go, but real marriage takes
No,
place in
that
the
permission they
church.
are not getting, therefore there is even mass is not given, many things are not given. So now what would I do?
Those who are, see, one of the things is Canon 21. It is called the canonization of civil law. Canonization of civil law. See, canonization of civil law. Because the canon law considers the civil law as holy. Canon law considers the civil law as holy. What is it? The law of the church wants us to follow civil law as though it were canon law. Is it 22? Right? 22. Canon 22. So, law of the church wants us to follow civil law as though it were canon law, with two exceptions. One is civil law must not be against divine law. Divine law. Secondly, if there is equivalent provision in canon law. Equivalent provision in canon law. So, if there is equal provision in canon law, then you follow it. For ordinary Indian citizens, the government itself recognizes the right of our priest to bless the marriage first. Why do the people want to go to the civil marriage first? If they want to go to the civil marriage first, then it is not a marriage, unless dispensation is given from the canonical form. If somebody is needed, already that itself But for two Catholics, we don't give except in danger of death. So two Catholics who can very well marry in the church first or not to ask for it, then they have to approach the bishop why they are going, and then in which case he can even give them. There is no two celebrations of the same marriage. What takes place in the church in the presence of the official minister is only the valid marriage for us.
Father, the basis I like this.
Yeah.
We are very clear about what you are saying.
Yeah.
The question is what Father was asking also is,
Yeah.
now I have a party a Catholic, the other party is a Hindu.
Yeah.
So in order to safeguard myself as a parish priest, as well as safeguard the boys' party, it is better that I belong. They go for a court marriage in the morning, evening they come for a church blessing.
I do not know
In
the
this
practice
case-
here, bishops say, court case,
So
the church has allowed.
The bishop is the bishop is not giving permission. The parish is not ready to.
Yeah,
ask
as a
them-
civil lawyer, yes.
I just want to make sure in this point,
Yeah.
the Indian law accepts marriage of one Christian, one Hindu as a right. We can place any marriage, one Christian, one Hindu.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have not taken it.
Marriage is Christian Marriage Act. So many of the priests, they don't know about it and they insist that both have to be Catholics and then they go for marriage. It's not right.
No, sorry, I am not talking about that point. I am not talking
These
about that
are
point.
different points.
No, Father, it is, I am telling you, I am coming from a good Catholic family. I want the mass, I want a very good Catholic marriage.
Yeah.
But just because my boy now a Hindu girl, I am in a trouble. Now because if I don't go, if they don't go for a court marriage, the girl's party can take for a right the priest as well as the boy. So therefore I am expecting that if it is done in the morning, the court marriage, evening I have the celebration. Whereas your Catholic church refuses the parish and the bishop doesn't want the Catholic marriage in a way, only just a rectification will be done in the evening. If at all you are going for a Catholic court marriage.
Okay, I
So
understand.
now the
So now many-
one more clarification. So the person like those kind of parties trying to question us, why if it can happen in Goa or in Pondicherry, why can't we go for a
No,
court
that
marriage?
you have to explain. That is the government rule. Here, it is not government rule, you want to follow it. Anybody need not come to the Catholic church or the two Catholics also need not come. They are within their rights according to civil law to go and get married. They are within two Catholics. Don't worry about the Hindu. Two Catholics are within the right. You can't even question them. You can question them with regard to your own religious upbringing. That's all. Why do you bring in a Hindu? So, okay, Father wanted to say something. Just come and go. Okay, we will have it.
Only in response to that.
Yes, yes, yes.
See, either two Catholics or a Catholic and a Hindu who wants to register marriage civilly in the morning and church marriage in the evening, he does not need permission from anybody. He can go and register and combine for the evening church mass. No bishop, no parish priest have authority to say no to it. Canada also says is only two different religious celebrations. Even in Gujarat, I know, in Ahmedabad and there are places where they had Hindu marriage first, then next day they had Catholic marriage, or vice versa. That has happened here. But
No,
this
okay,
case-
I understand.
But the case of
As
Hindu
of
marriage,
now,
they don't need anybody's permission.
as of now, we always say that is an invalid marriage. What they canonically, it is what took place there is an invalid marriage. In the old thinking and law, we were always saying it is only rectification. So it was all along it was considered as a rectification unless the government says first civil marriage as in the other governments. So now you are bringing in the point, it is not a rectification of marriage.
No.
It is not a marriage for us like that, we can
Exactly.
ignore it. No. See, when the government itself says that you are within the right, gives us sufficient freedom, my own thinking will be that you have to have the church marriage first. If you are wanting to give exception to them, a particular case, I think the higher authority should intervene. That with regard that we have to be clear. We need not take that topic again. One more intervention, one more. Father, anything else you want to say?
No, Father, see, why we insist this one is because of this freedom of religion.
Yes.
We ask the party to go to the court and then get married.
Yes.
And then afterwards, only because the moment they go to the court marriage, the sacrament for this bride and bridegroom is stopped, and the parents also the sacrament is stopped. And therefore, in order to rectify the marriage later on, we have to apply to the bishop. Till then, the parents are deprived of the sacraments. even the bride and bridegroom are deprived of the sacrament. Then we will have to apply to the bishop for the rectification of marriage. Then only the marriage blessing is taken.
I understand also practice now.
Yeah.
Suppose you are speaking about the same day. Somebody after 1 year comes for church marriage, after being married. What happens to them? 1 whole year, according to the church understanding, present understanding, so they won't live within brackets, they are living in sin. Whether they come the same day or after 1 week or after 1 year, that was how we are understanding. The other thing is the pastoral approach to them, dealing with them with respect and all these things, completely another matter. Okay, we'll have the break now, very good for your interest. And then all the questions I am not infallible, I am not competent also with regard to the civil side, but we will take up later. We will have the break. Okay.
When are we coming back?